The grand chandelier sparkled like 1,000 stars above the massive ballroom. The crowd, dressed in shimmering gowns and sharp tuxedos, clapped and cheered as the host's voice boomed through the microphone. "Ladies and gentlemen, tonight's special performance, Clara Thompson." Clara stood frozen at the edge of the stage, her heart pounding so loud she thought it might burst. Her simple blue dress, the one she wore to church every Sunday, looked out of place among the glittering crowd. Her hands shook as she clutched the microphone, its cold metal stinging her sweaty palms. The spotlight burned her face, and hundreds of eyes stared at Harwich, powerful people, including her billionaire husband, Victor, who sat in the front row, his face pale with shock. She wasn't supposed to be here. Clara was no singer. She was a quiet, small-town woman who baked cookies for her neighbors and helped at the local library. Singing in front of people? That was her worst nightmare. Yet here she was, forced onto this stage at the fanciest event in New York City, with no warning, no practice, and no choice. "Sing, Clara," the host urged, his smile tight and impatient. The crowd's cheers grew louder, but Clara's throat felt like it was closing. She glanced at Victor, her husband of 5 years. His dark eyes were wide, his mouth slightly open. He looked like he'd seen a ghost. Why wasn't he stopping this? Why wasn't he saving her? Her mind raced back to how this nightmare began. Just hours ago, when a mysterious note arrived at their mansion. But before she could think, the music started a soft, haunting melody that filled the room. The crowd fell silent, waiting. Clara's legs wobbled. If she didn't sing, she'd humiliate herself and Victor in front of everyone. But if she did sing, what would happen? Would her voice crack? Would they laugh? And why was Victor staring at her like he didn't even know her? She opened her mouth, her voice trembling as the first note slipped out. It was soft, shaky, but clear. The crowd leaned forward. Clara's eyes locked with Victor's, and for a moment, she saw something in his face. Fear, maybe, or something deeper. Something he'd been hiding from her all along. What was Victor so afraid of? And why had someone forced Clara onto this stage? Build up. A quiet life. Shattered Clara. Thompson's life was as simple as a sunny afternoon. She lived in a small town called Willow Creek before she met Victor. She worked at the library, shelving books and reading stories to kids. Her favorite thing was baking chocolate chip cookies, blueberry pies, anything that made people smile. She wasn't rich, wasn't famous, and didn't want to be. All she wanted was a quiet life with a family someday. Then Victor Thompson came into her life like a whirlwind. He was charming, handsome, and a billionaire who owned half the skyscrapers in New York. Clara met him by chance when he stopped in Willow Creek for a business deal. She was serving coffee at the town's only diner, and he said her smile lit up the room. They fell in love fast, got married, and moved to his giant mansion in the city. Clara tried to fit into his world of fancy parties and private jets, but she always felt like a fish out of water. She missed her simple life, but she loved Victor, so she stayed. Victor was kind, but he was busy. Always working, always traveling. Sometimes, Clara felt like she barely knew him. He'd come home late, his face tired, and he'd hug her tightly, like he was afraid she'd disappear. "You're my anchor, Clara," he'd say, but lately, he seemed distracted. He'd get strange phone calls in the middle of the night and leave the room to answer them. Clara didn't ask questions, she trusted him. Or at least, she thought she did. That morning, everything changed. Clara was in the kitchen, humming as she baked a batch of cookies for the mansion staff. The doorbell rang, and a delivery man handed her a small black envelope with no name on it. Inside was a single note, written in sharp red ink. "Sing at the gala tonight, or Victor's secrets will be revealed. You know what to do." Clara's hands trembled as she read it. Secrets? What secrets? Victor was a good man, wasn't he? She thought about telling him, but he was already at a meeting. Besides, what if the note was real? What if Victor was hiding something? Her stomach twisted. She didn't know how to sing, not like a professional. She'd only ever sung quietly to herself, in the shower or while baking. But the note was clear. She had to do this, or something bad would happen to Victor. When Victor came home that afternoon, he was in a rush. "Big gala tonight, Clara," he said, barely looking at her. "It's important. I need you there." He didn't notice her pale face, or the way her hands shook as she hid the note in her pocket. Clara wanted to tell him, but the words wouldn't come. What if he got angry? What if he thought she was silly for believing a strange note? So, she put on her simple blue dress, the only one she felt comfortable in, and went with Victor to the gala. She thought she'd just sit quietly in the crowd, like always. But when they arrived at the glittering hotel, a man in a black suit grabbed her arm. "You're the special performer," he whispered, pulling her toward the stage. Clara tried to protest, but he was too strong. "It's been arranged," he said, his voice cold. "You sing, or everyone learns the truth about your husband." Clara's heart raced. Who was this man? How did he know about the note? And what truth was he talking about? She looked at Victor, who was chatting with a group of businessmen, unaware of the nightmare unfolding. Before she could call out to him, she was pushed onto the stage, the spotlight blinding her. Suspense and twists. A web of secrets. As Clara stood under the spotlight, her mind spun with questions. Who sent the note? Why did they want her to sing? And what did they know about Victor? She glanced at the crowd, searching for the man in the black suit. But he was gone. The music swelled, and the host gestured for her to start. Clara's throat felt dry, but she forced herself to sing the first line of a song she barely knew, a lullaby her mother used to sing to her when she was little. Her voice was soft at first, wobbly and scared. But as she sang, something strange happened. The words felt right, like they belonged to her. The crowd stopped whispering and stared, their faces softening. Clara's voice grew stronger, clearer, filling the room. For a moment, she forgot her fear. She forgot the note, the man in the black suit, and even Victor's shocked face. She just sang. But then, she saw something that made her heart stop. In the back of the room, a woman in a red dress stood watching her. She was tall, with sharp cheekbones and eyes that seemed to pierce through Clara. The woman wasn't clapping like the others. She was smiling a cold, knowing smile that sent a shiver down Clara's spine. Who was she? Did she send the note? Clara's voice faltered for a second, but she kept going. She couldn't stop now. The crowd was entranced, and even Victor leaned forward in his seat, his hands clenched tightly. Clara's mind raced. Was this what the note meant? Was her singing supposed to reveal something? Or was it a trap? As the song ended, the crowd erupted in applause, standing and cheering. Clara's legs felt weak, but she forced a smile. The host rushed to her side, grabbing her hand and raising it high. "What a voice!" he shouted. Clara Thompson, everyone! The crowd cheered louder, but Clara barely heard them. She was looking at Victor, who hadn't clapped. He hadn't moved. His face was pale, his eyes locked on hers, like he was seeing her for the first time. The host leaned close to her ear. "You did well," he whispered, "but this isn't over. Meet me backstage, now." His voice was sharp like a knife. Clara's stomach dropped. What did he mean? Was he part of this too? She stepped off the stage, her heart pounding. The crowd was still clapping, but all she could think about was Victor's face and that woman in the red dress, who was now gone. Clara glanced at her husband, who was standing now, pushing through the crowd toward her. But before he could reach her, the man in the black suit appeared again, grabbing her arm. "This way," he said, pulling her toward a dark hallway behind the stage. "Where are you taking me?" Clara asked, her voice shaking. "You'll find out," the man said. "But if you want to keep Victor safe, you'll come with me." Clara's heart raced. She looked back at Victor, who was calling her name, his voice desperate, but the man's grip was too tight. He pulled her into the shadows, and the ballroom disappeared behind her. The hallway behind the stage was dark, the air thick with the smell of dust and old velvet curtains. Clara's heart thumped as the man in the black suit dragged her forward, his grip like iron on her arm. The cheers of the ballroom faded, replaced by the echo of her own shaky breaths. She tried to pull away, but he was too strong. "Where are you taking me?" she asked again, her voice barely above a whisper. "Quiet," the man hissed, his eyes darting behind them as if someone might follow. "You'll see soon enough." Clara's mind raced. Just minutes ago, she'd been on stage, singing in front of hundreds of strangers, her voice somehow captivating a crowd she didn't belong to. Now, she was being pulled into a shadowy hallway by a man she didn't know, all because of a mysterious note threatening to expose Victor's secrets. What secrets? Victor was her husband, the man she loved. He was kind, generous, even if he was distant sometimes. Could he really be hiding something so big that someone would force her to sing to keep it quiet? She thought of Victor's face in the crowd pale, shocked, his eyes wide, with something like fear. Did he know about the note? Did he know why she was on that stage? And who was that woman in the red dress, smiling like she knew something Clara didn't? The man stopped at a heavy wooden door at the end of the hallway. He knocked twice, sharp and quick, and the door creaked open. A dim light spilled out, revealing a small room with peeling wallpaper and a single table in the center. Sitting at the table was the host of the gala, the man who'd announced her performance. His bright smile from the stage was gone, replaced by a cold, calculating stare. "Sit," he said, pointing to a rickety chair across from him. The man in the black suit pushed Clara forward, and she stumbled into the seat. Her blue dress caught on the chair's rough edge, tearing a small rip at the hem. She clutched the fabric, her hands trembling. "What's going on?" Clara asked, her voice small but firm. "Why did you make me sing? What do you want with me?" The host leaned back, folding his hands. "You did well up there, Clara. Better than we expected. That voice of yours, it's special. Too special to stay hidden in a small town, don't you think?" Clara frowned. "I don't understand. I'm not a singer. I'm just me. Why am I here?" The host's eyes narrowed. "You're here because someone wanted you to be. Someone who knows the truth about your husband." Clara's stomach twisted. "What truth? Victor's a good man. A good man?" The host laughed, a sharp, bitter sound. Oh, Clara, you're so sweet, so trusting, but you don't know Victor Thompson at all. The words hit her like a slap. She wanted to argue, to defend Victor, but the note's words echoed in her mind. Sing, or Victor's secrets will be revealed. She swallowed hard. What do you know about him? Tell me. The host leaned forward, his voice low. Victor's built an empire, but empires have cracks. He's been lying to you, Clara. Lying to everyone. And tonight, you're going to help us bring those lies to light. Clara shook her head. I don't believe you. Victor wouldn't. Wouldn't what? The host interrupted. Lie? Cheat? Hurt people to get what he wants? He pulled a small photograph from his pocket and slid it across the table. Clara's hands shook as she picked it up. It showed Victor, younger, standing next to a woman, the woman in the red dress from the gala. They were laughing, their arms around each other, standing in front of a building with a sign that read, Thompson Enterprises. Who is she? Clara whispered, her voice breaking. The host smirked. Ask Victor. Or better yet, sing again. Because if you don't, that photo and a lot more will be all over the news by morning. Clara's heart pounded. The woman in the red dress. Was she part of Victor's past? A friend? Something more? And why did the host want her to sing again? What did her voice have to do with any of this? Before she could ask, the door burst open. Victor stood there, his face red with anger, his tie loosened. Clara! He shouted, his eyes locking onto her. What's going on? Why are you here? The host stood, his smile returning. Victor, perfect timing. Your wife was just about to make a very important decision. Victor's gaze flicked to the host, then to the man in the black suit, who stepped back into the shadows. Let her go, Victor said, his voice low and dangerous. This has nothing to do with her. Oh, but it does, the host said. Clara's the key to everything. Aren't you, Clara? Clara's head spun. She looked at Victor, searching his face for answers. Victor, what's happening? They said you're hiding something. They made me sing because of you. Victor's face softened for a moment, but then his jaw tightened. Clara, don't listen to them. Come with me, now. He reached for her hand, but the host stepped between them. Not so fast, Victor. Clara's got another performance tonight, and if she doesn't do it, well, let's just say the world will know who you really are. Victor's hands clenched into fists. You don't scare me, Marcus. The host Marcus laughed. I should, because I know everything, and so will she if you don't play along. Clara's heart raced. She stood, her chair scraping against the floor. Victor, tell me the truth. What's going on? Who's the woman in the photo? Victor's eyes widened, and for a moment, he looked like a trapped animal. Clara, it's not what you think. Then what is it? She demanded, her voice louder now. She'd never spoken to him like that before, but something inside her was breaking. The simple life she thought she had was crumbling, and she needed answers. Before Victor could respond, a loud crash came from the hallway. Footsteps pounded closer, and the woman in the red dress appeared in the doorway, her cold smile wider than ever. Well, she said, her voice smooth as silk. Looks like the party's just getting started. Clara's breath caught. The woman's eyes locked onto hers, and Clara felt a chill, like she was staring into a storm. Who are you? Clara asked, her voice trembling. The woman stepped closer, her heels clicking on the floor. I'm someone who knows your husband better than you do, and tonight, Clara, you're going to sing for me. Clara's knees felt weak. She looked at Victor, but he wouldn't meet her eyes. The room seemed to close in around her, the walls pressing tighter. The woman in the red dress, Marcus, the man in the black suit, they all wanted something from her. But what? And why was Victor so afraid? "Get her ready," the woman said to Marcus. "The next performance is in 10 minutes. Marcus nodded, and the man in the black suit grabbed Clara's arm again. "No," she shouted, pulling back. "I'm not going anywhere until someone tells me what's happening." The woman in the red dress tilted her head, her smile never fading. "Oh, Clara, you'll sing, because if you don't, Victor's world comes crashing down. And you don't want that, do you?" Clara's eyes darted to Victor. He looked like he wanted to speak, but his mouth stayed shut. The man in the black suit pulled her toward the door, and Clara stumbled, her heart pounding. The woman in the red dress followed, her laughter echoing in the small room. As they dragged her back toward the stage, Clara heard Victor call her name, his voice desperate. But the sound was drowned out by the roar of the crowd waiting in the ballroom. The music started again, a new song, louder and faster than before. Clara's throat tightened. She didn't know the song. She didn't know anything anymore. The man pushed her toward the stage, the spotlight waiting like a hungry eye. Clara's mind raced. What was Victor hiding? Who was the woman in the red dress? And why did her singing matter so much? As she stepped into the light, the crowd cheered again, but all Clara could see was the woman in the red dress standing at the edge of the stage, watching her every move. The music swelled, and Clara's voice caught in her throat. She had to sing. She had no choice. The spotlight burned brighter as Clara stood on the stage, the crowd's cheers ringing in her ears. Her simple blue dress clung to her, torn at the hem, and her hands shook as she gripped the microphone. The woman in the red dress watched from the shadows, her cold smile like a predator's. Clara's heart pounded. She didn't know the song playing, a fast, dramatic melody that felt like it was pulling her into a storm. She glanced at Victor in the front row, his face tight with worry, his hands clenched. Why wasn't he stopping this? What was he hiding? Clara's voice started weak, stumbling over the unfamiliar words, but something inside her shifted. The music seemed to guide her, and her voice grew stronger, filling the ballroom with a power she didn't know she had. The crowd gasped, some standing, others whispering. Even the woman in the red dress leaned forward, her eyes narrowing. Clara's song wasn't just a performance, it was a weapon, though she didn't know how or why. Backstage, the host, Marcus, and the man in the black suit exchanged glances, their faces tense. Clara's singing was doing something stirring memories, emotions, secrets. She caught snippets of the crowd's whispers. Her voice, it's like hers. Who were they talking about? The woman in the red dress? Someone else from Victor's past? As Clara sang, her mind flashed back to earlier that day, when she'd found a hidden photo in Victor's office while looking for a pen. It was the same photo Marcus showed her Victor, and the woman in the red dress, laughing together years ago. Clara had pushed it out of her mind, but now it burned in her thoughts. Was Victor in love with that woman before? Was she the reason for the note, the threats, this whole nightmare? The song hit a high note, and Clara's voice soared, raw and clear. The crowd erupted, but Victor stood suddenly, pushing toward the stage. "Clara, stop!" he shouted, his voice desperate. The woman in the red dress stepped forward, blocking his path. "Let her finish, Victor," she said, her voice sharp. You know why she's here. Clara's voice faltered. What did the woman mean? She kept singing, but her eyes locked on Victor and the woman arguing at the stage's edge. The crowd didn't notice they were too caught up in her voice, but Clara saw everything. Victor's anger, the woman's smug grin, Marcus whispering to the man in the black suit. As the song ended, the crowd roared, but Clara's legs gave out. She dropped to her knees, the microphone slipping from her hand. Victor broke free and ran to her, catching her before she fell. Clara, I'm sorry, he whispered, his voice shaking. I never wanted this. Before Clara could ask what he meant, the woman in the red dress clapped slowly, stepping onto the stage. Beautiful, Clara, she said. Just like I knew you'd be. You've done exactly what we needed. Clara's stomach dropped. What are you talking about? She asked, her voice hoarse. The woman smirked. Your voice, Clara. It's not just a voice. It's a key. And you just unlocked something Victor's been hiding for years. Victor's face went white. Don't do this, Elena, he said to the woman. Clara's heart skipped Elena. Was that her name? Elena laughed, turning to the crowd. Ladies and gentlemen, you've heard Clara's voice. But do you know why it matters? Do you know what Victor Thompson's been hiding from you all? The crowd murmured, confused. Clara clung to Victor, her mind spinning. What was Elena about to reveal, and why did Clara's singing make it happen? Before Elena could say more, the lights in the ballroom flickered. A loud crack echoed, like glass breaking, and the crowd screamed. Clara looked up to see a massive chandelier swaying dangerously above them, its crystals glinting like knives. Someone shouted, "It's going to fall!" Victor pulled Clara to her feet, dragging her toward the stage's edge. Elena vanished into the chaos, and Marcus and the man in the black suit were nowhere to be seen. The chandelier groaned, its chains snapping one by one. Clara's heart raced as she and Victor ran, the crowd panicking around them. What had her singing done? What secret was Elena about to expose? And would they even make it